we basically had this idea. It was like, well, why don't we have a research centre? Why do we have to go and carry on being academics within a university? And it was pretty much, that doesn't seem like such a bad idea, let's do it. So that provided a huge amount of autonomy to dream big, really, about what this research centre might be like. And directly accountable to the Runanga. And we started really small. We started with only 2 people with not a hell of a lot of ideas about sort of structure and systems and all of that in place. But I guess a real dream that this is totally and utterly possible and we would just do it.
So I guess in the back of our mind is that desire to do research that is meaningful for iwi and relevant for iwi. And that's a continual challenge, I think, to make sure that we do that.
And us being partners with you guys is really part of our trying to be a lot more nimble, a lot more responsive, partnering with people that are on the ground. You are really generating research questions from your community and from the need of your provider, and we love that. So we're trying to flip the tables a little bit at the moment around our own research program and find innovative ways of generating research questions from a bottom-up approach. And I think the whānau order space is absolutely, ideal for doing that.
So I think there's still a place for understanding what it is that whānau order is that makes it different and makes it work for Māori as a philosophy, as a model of practice, as an outcomes measure. So building that evidence base to support what we might know from our gut or from our instinct or from being Māori. Because I think the way the system works is that the evidence is important to bring the funding. And if we don't have that evidence, then the sustainability of whānau order in the long term is vulnerable. The way whānau order is going in New Zealand is unique, and that there is a lot of potential and opportunity for other Indigenous peoples to learn how they might use their own models. So I think there are potential lessons for others as well as ourselves around how can you integrate a uniquely Indigenous concept within a publicly funded, for example, health and social service system.
We all know as Māori researchers, and we all say that research has to be translational and transformative and, impact on the ground and be utilised in some way. I totally think that is of critical importance. However, actually doing that is really, really challenging. And we've been thinking about it actually in our planning this year and thinking we almost need to deconstruct how we do research. So research questions being driven from the community much more than out of an academic mind, if you like, or at least with academics and communities constructing the question together. Really thinking about really bringing the key stakeholders in to think about the so what's. How is this applicable at a service or policy level? What have we found out that is actually going to be useful for you that you can use as advocacy to central government, advocacy in your communities? How can we redesign services so that they work better for you? What evidence can we provide that is going to be actually useful for you as a community? So that's what we're sort of trying to do, but it is a challenge.
And I think the standard way that you are trained as an academic doesn't lend itself towards thinking about actually what are the products that iwi or Māori need. So your academic pathway is very typically around, journal publications or conference presentations. So we've kind of had to unbundle some of that for ourselves. It's still important for us in terms of track record and making sure that we get the next lot of funding. But there's a whole additional set of outputs or ways to disseminate over and above that might look quite different, and the timing of which are more immediate. So while you could write a publication in 3 years, it might come out and that's okay, and you're advancing new knowledge, in a particular field. Iwi hapu Māori, and we were talking about Māori providers especially, they need those results immediately, really, because they're ahead of the research. So they're pushing us to get that stuff out quickly, and we can't be, crafting the perfect policy briefing paper. It's what can we give you now that's at least enough information for you to be able to make a decision to support something that you're doing.
Yeah. I think there's going to be some brave souls out there who are going to set up other iwi research centres, and I think particularly in a post-settlement world where there is more resource and in fact more opportunities for investment in well-being. It's insane to think you're going to do that stuff without research sitting alongside it. So it's got to be part of a post-settlement world. So I think that. I think the universities will need to change to accommodate a much more flexible approach. I know Massey are thinking about there is no longer, maybe we've come to a point that 3-year degrees are not where we need to be. That's not where your consumers are or your customers.
So I think Heather's right in that there is massive opportunity in a post-settlement world. However, I also think that if I look back to where we've come from, I don't see the degree of security that I think I would have expected, knowing what's been built so far. I think it's very easy to ignore the Treaty of Waitangi, to ignore us as tangata whenua, to ignore our unique relationship, and it can get eroded quite quickly if you allow it to. It's a craft. It is a craft to be a good Māori health researcher. I don't think it's for everyone. I think there are particular skills and particular characteristics and particular ways of being that make you a good Māori researcher, and passion isn't going to be enough to drive you. Like being organised, being methodical, being detailed, being a good writer, being a critical thinker, not accepting everything that you hear or see or someone tells you and think, oh yeah, that's got to be right. Actually do that critical reflection at every part. Be aware of the broader context. These are all skills you need to be a good Māori researcher, as well as all the additional things that we've talked about in terms of connect to iwi, disseminate well, disseminate quickly in a timely manner, keep that quality, keep that integrity that you come to the sector with, which you will, because you will be passionate about wanting to do that work.
The expectation is quite high. And so it should be, because actually what we're doing is producing knowledge that is going to benefit our people.
And our people deserve the best we can do.